Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review. In this video I'm going to review This Is My Battle Cry by Ayria. This is the newest album of singer and songwriter Ayria, which is another album that goes into an electropop and futurepop direction, like with all of the previous works she has done in the past. There is also a nice blend of elements of industrial and EBM, which makes the experience that much greater in my opinion. Ayria released in 2008 Hearts for Bullets, which I would consider to be one of my favorite electronic releases of all time. Unfortunately, I wouldn't really say that anything else that I've heard out of her so far has managed to even be close to the quality of Hearts for Bullets in my opinion, but I still find the works that she has put over the years to be quite interesting, and I believe that this album basically just serves more of the same. I can't really say that I find this release to be all that much particularly special, but I do believe that in some cases we get some of the best material that I've heard out of Ayria, but not in something that would feel that much consistent as a full-length project. Now this one, when it comes to its concept, it's more of like a breakup and hardship album. It's a theme that I've seen Ayria mentioning in previous works as well, but in the case of this brand new album over here, I believe that it's more apparent than ever. It might be a theme that not everyone can necessarily relate to it, but the lyrics over here and the overall themes are presented in a pretty simplistic way for the most part. There's not something particularly exceptional with the way the themes are presented over here, but you can at least get a more of an edgy factor with some of the songs. Now for me, I'd say that this album starts on a pretty strong note with the very first track, Battle Cry. This is actually one of the most different tracks over here. When the album started with this particular song, I was pretty intrigued because I was curious if the album was gonna go in this direction for its entirety, but it's not really the case. As the album progresses, it goes more into the more standard approaches of electropop and futurepop that we've seen from previous releases of Ayria, just dominating as the main genre, which is something that happens over here as well, but Battle Cry is a bit of an exception as it's one of the darkest and most aggressive themes over here when it comes to its instrumental, having the more industrial elements than basically anything else contained in this album. And I really like the feel of this particular track. It's slow, it's heavy, and it has some really nice scenes. The overall industrial sounds are pretty solid, and the robotic vocals towards the chorus is a direction that I dig a lot. I believe that this track is executed in a really nice way. But as the album progresses, like I said, we go into some more melodic and chill directions, which I believe that at other moments in the past they've managed to work pretty well for Ayria, but I don't really find many of those moments over here to manage to be all that much engaging or having something that much exceptional to them. I believe that the track Stranger Danger is a pretty catchy song, but outside of that, I don't really find the vocal performances or the instrumental to be particularly that much interesting, but I still dig some of its approaches as it manages to be a pretty catchy and quite fun song for the most part. And the track Why Aren't You Dead Yet could have been better in my opinion if it wasn't this long. I don't really find this track to be all that much worth it being 5 minutes long. I believe that it drags it a little bit after a certain point, and there are some pretty interesting elements when it comes to some of the scenes that we get, but yeah, at the end of the day I find this to be a pretty boring track that is quite unengaging. It doesn't really contain many elements that I would see myself making me come back to this particular song. Irreplaceable goes more into the same territory. At this point it feels like another pretty basic song with pretty basic structures, instrumentals and deliveries, in which I find it to be just a pretty decent idea, just having some catchy moments here and there, but never really managing to extend to something beyond that in terms of quality and memorability. But then we get what is arguably for me the greatest moment out of this album, which is the track Raise Me From You. This is actually a direction that I really love out of the sound of Ayria. It's another track that once again goes into this electropop sound, but this one manages to actually be a bit more emotional, sentimental, and having a bit of a more sad tone to it, which I believe that is executed in a really nice way over here, as it really manages to capture all of those emotions and just being a really powerful song with its delivery and with the way that it's structured and it sounds. It has undoubtedly my favorite and the most memorable chorus out of this whole project. Also those ethereal scenes towards the chorus sound absolutely beautiful, and I believe that this is a really executed idea, so much so that I would easily consider this one of my favorite Ayria songs out of her entire catalog. The track We Can't Love Here Anymore is possibly the closest thing we get to the direction of the very first track, and I do find it to be one of the most interesting moments here. Once again, I really dig those more industrial elements in her sound, and I believe that it's executed pretty nicely once again, also managing to have this dark tone but also keeping some of the more sentimental and sad approaches that we saw with the previous song. And even if it's not that much of a memorable song in my opinion, I still enjoy the approach out of this one. Then we have what is arguably the most intense and the most energetic moment over here, with the track No One Asked You. Definitely the most edgy in terms of its approach and its attitude and its delivery. It's possibly the closest thing that we get from some of the directions out of Hearts for Bullets, but I would say that this track feels sort of like lost potential. I really like the chorus. I believe it's extremely catchy, one of the catchiest of this album, and also one of the most infectious and memorable ones. The issue is that I don't really like the sound out of this one. I believe that the lead synths are extremely loud and they end up becoming a little bit obnoxious after a certain point. So as far as I like the intensity and the energy of this song, I would prefer it to be executed in a bit of a different way, as I find the mixing and the sound of this track to drag it down a little bit and not really making it significant for the right reasons. So while it is one of the most memorable songs over here, I would personally prefer it if it was done in a little bit of a different way. But after this point I believe that the album for the most part goes into a pretty basic and standard electropop and futurepop direction that in a sense complements a big portion of the album with its directions, but I don't really find tracks like The Next Time to be that much standout moments, or Too Much Noise, which is kinda more intense in some parts, but for the most part it feels like a kinda basic song for what it does, and also it's kind of the same thing with the final track, End of Life, which I like that this track is a little bit more up-tempo and uplifting in comparison to most of the album, but it doesn't really offer that much more beyond this point when it comes to its delivery and its overall pacing. So I would consider the new Ayria album to just be decent, and while tracks like Erase Me From You and Battle Cry are amongst some of my favorites in her entire catalog, as a whole thing I believe that this is another album that has its inconsistencies and could have been done a bit better in some parts. Still, if you're looking for an electropop album that also blends elements of industrial and EBM, then Ayria's catalog can definitely be to your liking. I found her overall catalog to be pretty good, even though Hearts for Bullets is by far the biggest highlight in her career, and nothing else has managed to come even close to the quality of this one in my opinion. I'm gonna give This Is My Battle Cry a 6+ out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why? And what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.